And welcome back to Max Trades Crypto. Today we're going to be going over the weekly term time frame on the chart. So how we're going to do this is we're going to start with market cycles, then go into our long-term Elliott Wave count and our two different scenarios that are possibly playing out. So overall, right, starting on the market cycles, overall I think we have started some form of correction, some form of bear market, whether we have been in it for a long time, whether we are in it now. I definitely think we have started some form of bottoming or going to the bottom structure for Bitcoin. So I'm going to explain these two types of things. So as you can see on the charts, we have different cycles from Bitcoin's past. Right? From this is the index chart, and we start at 2012 with the first halving. Following 2012, we had a certain amount of days until our top in the market. Right? Now, we all know that the top ranges between about 4 years, right? From top to top, sits at, there's 1,463 days. From this top to that top, we have 1,428 days. Very, very close to one another on the 4-year cycle. There's another 1,428 days, right? From bottom to bottom, we have the same kind of pattern where we have 1,435 days, 1,414 days, all around that area, right? 1,400 or so days. And then looking at the lengths of the bear markets in the past, right? This is kind of what we are mainly looking at when we look at this. When is the top and when is the bottom? So if we zoom in, we can see we had a top over here. If I can find my brush. Over here, we had a top form in 2013, a top form in 2017, a top form in 2021, and now perfectly predicted, right? We have another top formed here in 2025. Right? How did we know that this top was coming? We measured them. They are standard days from the previous top. And you can see here that this is the standard days. We can actually move this over a little bit. And there we have our top for this cycle. Right? This is a possible top. I'm not saying yet that the cycle is done and we're in an official bear market, and we'll get into that now. But this is kind of what the charts have been saying through market cycle. So if we are to predict the next bottoming structure, as you can see here, we had a bottom over here that's 2015. Over here, we had a bottoming in 2018. Over here in 2022, right? So if we are now to predict the next bottom with the amount of days, the next bottom comes in at around the 5th of October 2026. We will now have a year of possible bear market. You can see here a year of possible bear market, 370 days or so. This has been the standard for Bitcoin now for the past while. And yes, everyone was saying this time is different, this time is different. And then again, we had a massive topping structure towards this high over here, right? It would mean, yes, and why everyone was saying that this time is different, this time is different, Bitcoin really didn't perform as previous years, right? If we just measure some percentages from this bottom over here, we have the bottoming over there to this high here, we did 8,000%. Cool. From this one to here, I keep selecting the line, we did over 2,000%, right? And from this bottom here and now up, we did a 7x, right? A 7x is now still amazing, but if we are looking at previous Bitcoin cycles, a 7x compared to the 20x and the 80x that we saw prior, we just thought it would go a lot higher. Right? We thought there would be a possible blow off top, which is still possible, and I'll show you guys now. But we thought, okay, cool, there could be a blow off top, or there could be massive price surges before this topping structure, yet there wasn't. Right? So we are now looking at a possible bear market. That is how we have approached the market cycles at the moment. And we've done this just using our standard measurements on TradingView. Now going on and looking at our Elliott Wave count, we can see here that this is our long-term Elliott Wave count. We are just on the index chart and looking at our 1-2 cycles. So we have our super cycle 1-2, our then cycle 1-2, and it goes on smaller 1-2s, and we are now in a intermediary wave 2, right? If price is now heading a lot lower, we are in an intermediary wave 2. So how can this be possible, right? What are we looking at from here? So let me remove some of these targets, right? And what we have seen is over the past few years of Bitcoin's, existence, since all the way down here, we have seen massive corrections take place, right? Corrections that are 60 to 70% on average. We can see here, if we go down from here, we have this is quite a bit bigger, 87% correction. We have down from here, an 84% correction. We then have down from here, and 77% correction, right? And we can then expect something similar. So I've tracked out a 60 to 75% correction here, and that is where this box sits. It sits between 60 to 70%. It sits between a $51,000 and $37,000, right? So if that is what the bear market is going to lead us into, we can then wait for a 60 to 70% retracement until we can start heavily piling more and more on for Bitcoin, right? If this is in our 1-2s, then our massive 3 is going to be huge, right? Seeing that $1 million Bitcoin definitely being touched there. So if that is what we are looking at possibly a 60 to 70% correction, followed by even more. I mean, if we go back into a $20,000 range, that would be around 75-80%. So I would just be slowly scaling in from where we touch around $69,000, this range over here, and then scaling in more and more as we go down, right? Getting bigger and bigger sizes in your trades, right? Getting in bigger and bigger spot positions. I don't often recommend trading in a bear market, right? Yes, you can make money on the hourly and 4-hourly time frame. The problem is bear markets are often quite drastic. They move very quickly down. As you can see, here's a quick little bit of range and quick down again. In the next bear market, you can see again, very sharp, little bit of range, sharp, little bit of range, sharp, right? You can see all these moves are often very sharp. So far, we've had quite a sharp move to the downside already, right? We could see something of a range like this, sharp, something of a range, sharp, right? We don't know what to expect in a bear market, right? We are expecting moves to the downside. That is all we know currently. So there are two scenarios that we could do from this. We have our first scenario, that is the high of wave 1 ended on this high over here, right? That side over there. That would mean we have been in a bear market for a while now. We have been in a bear market for approximately from that high to where we are now. We have been in a bear market for over 300 days, right? Obviously now bear market and price increasing obviously doesn't make too much sense, right? But we are looking at a possible flat structure with an A, B, and a wave C. That being our wave 2, and then our wave 2 would end here, and we are then looking at much higher price action, right? This is our one possibility on the chart, right? The next possibility is that our wave 1 ended over here. And that would mean we are only in the start of our move to the downside. That would mean we had a 1, 2, 3, and then a diagonal 1, 2, 3, 4, and wave 5, something along the lines of that. And we are then only in our start now, where we are going to look for a 5-wave structure down, right? 2, 3, 4, 5, followed by a 3 wave, and then another 5 wave structure down, right? That is what we are now possibly looking for, a standard A, B, and wave C, possibly taking us to that 5 October 2026 mark that we've been talking about, right? So that is actually, in my opinion, the most likely, where we have a move now to the downside. But until we cannot confirm, right, until we invalidate this ABC structure, A, B, and wave C, we cannot then say with all honesty that, okay, cool, we have a finished move towards the downside and the bear market is then over, right? We cannot then say that. So where can we invalidate this ABC to the downside? One invalidation is the 1.618 invalidation, kind of a move too far. 1.618 of the ABC is almost the maximum. If we go to around 2, right, we would be looking at a heavy extension of this price action, right? A heavy extension of this wave C. Then how else could we invalidate it is in the wave C, we would need a 5 wave structure. We would need a 1, 2, 3, 4, and wave 5. And we can invalidate this if we get an A, B, a C, and then take the high before heading lower. That would mean we are then not in this wave C. Another way to look at it is regards to time. Oftentimes the wave A and the wave C are very similar in time, right? So we can see the wave A started here, ended over here, and started there. So around sitting at the week of the 29th of December. So over a lovely new year, we would then be saying, okay, our wave C is now taking very, very long to complete, and we are then moving on. Whether we have, if we then increase this to a 2, right, in my opinion, probably the maximum AC could go. We are looking at here the 16th of March, quite a while from now. But if the wave C still starts doing something like this and we get to around March, April, that would mean the C is now taking very, very long, right? We would possibly be looking at then a different kind of structure. But that is our 2 scenarios from here. So either we have a wave C to the downside, or we have a lot worse kind of bear market 1, bear market 2. Are we going to 54,000 to 54 to 65,000 around there, or are we going to hit those $30,000, $40,000 regions again? Those are kind of all the moves that we could look at in this bear market. We could, of course, turn from here. We could have an ABC and then turn from here in a running flat structure. Very unlikely, but possible. We could then turn from here and head higher, but we will get into 4-hour scenarios, and that on Thursday. So guys, thank you so much for watching the weekly time frame video. I do appreciate it. We can see at the back of me, the background is getting a little bit cooler. We have a Bitcoin sign now. I've ordered more stuff, slowly setting up after exams. But guys, I hope you have a great rest of your night. Let it be blessed, and I hope you'd enjoyed. It's been Max Trades Crypto. Cheers, guys.